Your research proposal is not going to stand out from everybody else's because you are doing 3 things wrong. Your title is too broad, you're being vague about your sample, and your timeline, not great. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and for the last 20 years, I've been working as an academic in UK universities. Now, in that time, I have seen a lot of research proposals, especially for postgraduate and doctoral programs. I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and the forgettable. And the forgettable research proposal is the worst one that you can possibly write. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to avoid that. Now, if you're here wanting to learn about research proposals, it's quite likely that you're actually writing a research proposal right now. If that's the case, you'll want to check this out. My research proposal PDF guide. In it, I take you through the step-by-step process that you need to follow when you're writing your research proposal. I break it down into manageable chunks so you can beat the overwhelm and feel reassured that you're not missing anything out. Because writing a research proposal can be quite an anxious and stressy process. This is a really crucial document that, let's face it, could determine quite important stuff about your future. Yeah, no pressure, right? Plus, there never seems like there's enough time to get research proposals written, so this helps you cut through the nonsense and stop faffing about. So do check it out, the link's in the description. Okay, let's dive right in with mistake number 1. Specifically, that your title is not specific enough. I have read so many research proposals with incredibly broad titles like this. Whilst these topics might serve as a good starting point for developing a proposal, they shouldn't be the final title. Trust me, if someone reads your proposal with such a broad title, they will most likely roll their eyes in disbelief. We've seen this stuff before, so show us something fresh and exciting. To make your title more compelling, you need to get specific, so have a think about these questions. Who, where, and why? For instance, let's consider the topic of queer people's experiences of workplace bullying. So, when we think about who, which specific queer individuals are you interested in studying? Are you focusing on gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or other identities within the queer community? Are you looking at a specific age group? Are you looking at people who are at a particular stage in their career? Are you looking at people who work full-time or part-time? Thinking about where are these individuals located? Are you examining workplace bullying experiences in a particular country, a region, or a city? And keep in mind that location doesn't have to be limited to geography alone. So consider different industries, different professions, different organisational cultures. And lastly, why? Why is it important to explore the experiences of queer individuals facing workplace bullying? Are there potential legal or policy implications that need to be addressed? Has a particular incident or case drawn your attention to the issue? By addressing these questions, you can begin to narrow your focus and develop a research title or question that is realistic and captivating. For example, you might end up with a title like this one. So, can you see how by being more specific, your research becomes considerably more focused and appealing to reviewers? It shows that you're delving into a unique area of study, and that will surely pique their interest. Now, you might be thinking, I don't want to get too specific at this point. I want to wait and see what my potential supervisors have to say about it. No. No, because we expect you to have a solid grasp of your field and to be really well versed in the existing literature around it. We don't want vague research proposals with a lot of maybes and uncertainties. We want decisive and confident students who know exactly what they want to accomplish. Remember, your supervisors are there to guide you, not to spoon feed you, so make your own decisions and your own choices and be really confident in them. Before we move on to the next section, I'll just show you the alternative titles for the other 2 examples we looked at. Here they are. So feel free to take a screenshot if that's helpful. Next up, another huge red flag for me is when a student is vague about their sample. They might say they're going to do research with parents who work from home, but from their research proposal, I can't figure out much more than that. They haven't specified who they're including or excluding and how small or large the sample will be. And they don't include any information about how they're going to recruit these people. Don't leave your reviewers guessing. Tell them all about that. Be crystal clear and laser focused. Make sure you're really clear about how you're going to access your sample, whether that's recruiting people, participants, or whether that's gaining access to particular materials like documents or cases. Access is a crucial issue, and it's one of the most important things that we look at when we're considering how doable and how realistic your research actually is. If you can't convince us that you can access the relevant people or the relevant materials, then we are not going to be confident that you can complete your research. Because if you don't have access, you don't have any data, and if you don't have any data, you don't have a research project. We also need to see that you've thought about the challenges that might be involved in recruiting people or gaining access to materials. For example, let's say that you want to do research with teenagers aged 13 to 15. How are you going to access them? If you're researching with children, you're going to need to go through some process or some vetting procedure, so we need to see some evidence that you've actually thought about that, and that you know what you need to do in relation to that. How and when are you going to get approval to work with this group of participants? When you've gone through any official approval or vetting processes, are you then going to need to get in touch with gatekeepers, people like schools and clubs, those who work closely with the group of participants that you were trying to access? Have you reached out to them yet? And if not, when are you going to do that? And please don't assume that your supervisors are just going to sort out your access for you because they're experienced in the field and they've got good connections. I've lost count of the number of proposals that I've read when a student has written that with my kind assistance, they will access this particular group. No, you will not, because when you are a postgrad, you are expected to stand on your own 2 feet. You're expected to sort this out for yourself. And of course, your supervisors are going to provide you with some guidance and some advice during the recruitment and the sampling process, but they're not going to magically conjure up participants for you. That is down to you. Next, we're moving on to another issue that often arises, a lackluster project timeline. I have read so many research proposals that have got a section in them called timeline or research plan, and then underneath that they've got this like really basic table or this terribly screenshotted chart that is frustratingly difficult to read. Often this table or this chart is something that I kind of have to go like that to read, and it's like a neck workout that I really don't want. Seriously, it is really annoying, so if you're struggling with section breaks, then please check out this video which explains exactly how to use them. This is a very valuable skill, so please do take the time to check that out. And usually when I encounter these basic or misaligned wonky tables, they contain rows in them that say things like this. Yeah. Now, I understand how this happens because when you're writing a research proposal, by the time you get to the section where you're talking about the plan or the timeline, you've just run out of steam and you just want to hand this stamping in, and subsequently you don't spend a lot of time on the timeline. Creating a well thought out timeline is absolutely essential. A great timeline tells us that you understand the realities of the research process. We need to see that you understand research is not a linear process. It doesn't neatly follow this structure where you write your literature review and then that's all done. Then you write your methodology, that's all done. Then you do your data and that's all done, and so on and so forth. That is not how research happens. These phases overlap, they intertwine. Very often you go back and forth between different chapters, and that is something that you can actually capture in your research timeline. That is what we want to see in your research proposal. And developing a really good research timeline doesn't have to be complicated. It can actually be quite straightforward if you just sit down and you give some thought to it. Now, to illustrate that, here is an example of the kind of timeline you should aim to produce. This example demonstrates a much more comprehensive timeline than the one that we saw earlier. One that accounts for various research activities from the initial literature review to the final submission, and it notes that some stages are going to overlap. Some things are going to happen more than once during the process of doing the research. And this is actually an example one from my research proposal pack, which actually contains a very handy Excel template that you can fill in so you don't have to faff around creating your own spreadsheet. An accurate and a well thought through timeline is going to really impress the people who are reviewing your research proposal. So please make sure that you devote the necessary time to it. So now you know how to avoid those 3 mistakes that everybody else is making in their research proposal: the broad title, vagueness around the sample, the rubbish timeline. You are well set up to go and produce a fantastic research proposal. And whilst you're doing that, don't forget to check out the thing that I mentioned earlier, my research proposal PDF guide. The link is in the description, so go and take a look at that, and I will be back next week.